Have you ever witnessed a divine intervention in today's modern world? In Denmark, something extraordinary happened, an event that left both Muslims and non-Muslims in awe. It all started with a small group of Muslims peacefully protesting the atrocities in Gaza. But what unfolded on the streets of Denmark was nothing short of miraculous. From a handful of demonstrators to thousands of people rallying together, Muslims and non-Muslims united for humanity. Yet when the Danish police intervened with tear gas, what happened next was beyond anyone's imagination. Mysterious, glowing figures appeared in the sky, shielding the protesters, forcing the police to retreat. This extraordinary sight sparked an unprecedented wave of interest in Islam, leading many to embrace the faith. Could this be a modern-day miracle? Stay tuned as we unravel this awe-inspiring story that is leaving the world speechless. Welcome to Heartbeats for Allah. Assalamu alaikum, friends. A great miracle of Allah Almighty has unfolded in Denmark. Thousands of Muslims and non-Muslims took to the streets, chanting slogans in favor of Gaza during a continuous protest that lasted over 5 hours. The Danish police eventually intervened, ready to disperse the crowd with tear gas and shelling. But the way Allah came to the aid of the Muslims will leave you amazed and deeply moved. Protests against the ongoing oppression in Gaza have been taking place worldwide. However, Denmark had been silent on the matter so far. The reasons were tied to the country's demographics and its government's stance. Denmark is predominantly non-Muslim, with Muslims making up only a small fraction of the population. In such an environment, no significant protest had emerged, until recently when about 50 Muslims decided to step out holding boards to show solidarity with Gaza. Their actions triggered a reaction from non-Muslims that was nothing short of extraordinary. In today's video, we will share every detail of this miraculous and spiritually uplifting event. But before we dive in, if you are visiting this channel for the first time, please subscribe and click the bell notification to stay updated with all the latest news and events. Now, let us begin this inspiring story. This incident occurred in Denmark and has since sparked a wave of interest in Islam among the non-Muslim community. Many have started visiting mosques to learn more, with some even embracing the faith. The story begins in a small area in Denmark, home to around 50 Muslim families. These families had been vocal in expressing their disapproval of Israel's actions, but had yet to organize any public protest. Their resistance had remained confined to conversations within their community, until one young man decided to act. This young man had been quietly harboring resentment, his heart heavy with the news from Gaza. One day, he came across a video on social media that shattered him. The video, presented in a documentary format, detailed the destruction and devastation in Gaza over the past year. It highlighted the number of families that had been torn apart, the children who had been orphaned, and the sheer scale of human suffering. Pictures of children, once full of life and joy, were shown alongside images of their broken bodies. The video also exposed the atrocities committed by Israeli forces against women and families. Watching this, the young man could no longer contain his pain. He felt a moral obligation to act. He began creating banners with powerful messages and started putting them up around the Muslim community. Determined to bring attention to the issue, he announced a protest date and declared, "I will stand alone on the streets to protest Israel's cruelty and barbarism. If anyone feels even a shred of sympathy for the mothers, sisters, and children of Palestine, they should join me." His words struck a chord, and soon around 50 men and women from the community agreed to stand alongside him. On the day of the protest, these individuals left their homes with placards and flags reading, quote, "Free Palestine," and "Stop the oppression in Gaza." They marched through the streets, chanting slogans like, "Free Palestine," "Stop the oppression in Gaza," "End the killing of children," and "Stop being inhumane." Their voices echoed through the streets, carrying a message of solidarity and justice. Nearby, non-Muslims began to take notice of the demonstration. While they were already aware of the atrocities being committed in Gaza, seeing the protesters up close and the powerful images they carried struck a deeper chord. These images showed children who had been martyred by Israeli forces, families grieving their losses, and the devastation wrought on Gaza's innocent population. Moved by the protesters' courage and humanity, non-Muslims began joining in. Some expressed that religion didn't matter. What united everyone was a shared sense of humanity. "We're all human beings first," one non-Muslim participant remarked. No matter what faith we follow, we are bound by humanity. If someone has lost their humanity, they are no longer one of us. As more people joined, the protest gained momentum. What began as a group of 50 soon grew into a crowd of hundreds and then thousands. Even people who had jobs to attend to left their responsibilities behind to participate in the demonstration. News outlets started covering the event live, and videos of the protests spread across social media platforms. Hashtags like #FreePalestine and #JusticeForGaza began trending as the protest became a rallying cry for justice. The protest disrupted life in the city, blocking streets and bringing daily activities to a halt. Roads remained closed for over 5 hours. Soon, the news reached the Danish police department. Pro-Israel groups began flooding the police with complaints, accusing the protesters of disturbing peace and blocking traffic. In some cases, these groups deliberately damaged their own cars and windows to frame the demonstrators as unruly. Despite these provocations, the protesters maintained their peaceful approach. When the police arrived, they were met with broken glass and reports of disturbances. Furious, they announced through loudspeakers, "You have 30 minutes to disperse. If you fail to comply, we will be forced to take strict action." The protesters, however, stood their ground. "We are not causing harm," they replied. "We are demanding justice, and we will not leave until our voices are heard." Angered by their defiance, the police issued another warning, giving the crowd a final 30-minute deadline. Yet instead of dispersing, the crowd grew larger. More people joined, and the protesters began chanting slogans, not just against Israel, but also against their own government for its inaction. "If you support Israel, we will protest against you as well," they declared. "We will not rest until Denmark imposes sanctions on Israel and takes a firm stand." As tensions escalated, the police decided to act. Officers launched tear gas canisters into the crowd, filling the air with a choking mist. Protesters began coughing and shielding their eyes as tears streamed down their faces. Despite this, they refused to leave, their chants growing louder and more determined. Amid the chaos, something extraordinary happened. As the police prepared for a larger assault, beams of radiant light broke through the overcast sky. Witnesses described seeing angelic figures with glowing white wings descending from above. These beings cast a protective shadow over the protesters, shielding them from harm. The police, stunned and terrified, began retreating. Some officers reportedly dropped their weapons and fled the scene. Videos captured by onlookers showed these luminous beings hovering above the protesters. For many, the sight was unmistakable. Angels sent by Allah to protect the oppressed. Non-Muslims who witnessed this miraculous event were deeply moved. Many later reported feeling a profound spiritual awakening, and some even embraced Islam on the spot. The footage of the event went viral, capturing the attention of millions worldwide. People from all over began researching Islam and visiting mosques to learn more about the faith. The protest continued for 3 days, during which the demonstrators remained resolute. Their demands were clear. Denmark must condemn Israel's actions and sever all ties with the country. As international attention grew, pressure mounted on the Danish government to respond. Finally, the Danish president issued a statement announcing that Denmark would halt all trade relations with Israel and cease any form of support. Additionally, the police officers responsible for mishandling the situation were suspended. This marked a significant victory for the protesters and a turning point in the narrative. This incident was more than just a protest. It became a symbol of faith, unity, and the power of collective action. It inspired people worldwide to stand up for justice and reminded everyone that even in the darkest moments, hope and resilience can shine through. The protest in Denmark is a testament to the strength of conviction and the belief that when we stand for truth, we are never truly alone.